This episode of Super Pulp Science is brought to you by Gear NC, written by Claire C. Marshall and available at both the Saskatoon and Edmonton Expos coming up in September.
Attention, citizens. It's time for Super Pulp Science.
They didn't think Deathstroke was powerful enough in somewhere in editorial, so they added the Terminator to it.
Well, was that already a movie at the time, or was it before the movie?
No, the character Deathstroke. But so his real name is Slade Wilson.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And so often they just call him Slade.
His name is Slade Wilson.
Yeah.
Like Wade Wilson.
Yeah.
That's so weird. And that came before?
I don't know.
Deadpool?
No, Deadpool's after. Came after.
Yeah, Deadpool's fairly new.
Yeah. And if you think about Deadpool is just Spider-Man with guns.
Yeah.
Oh, no, so
Yeah.
he can heal though. Like
No.
he's got
Okay, he's Spider-Man with a little bit of Wolverine and guns.
But his
it's
costume is...
his costume looks like Spider-Man.
Spider-Man
Yeah.
with guns.
Yeah. Okay.
And Spider-Man plus Doctor Strange is Spawn.
That's true.
Right?
Yeah.
Spider-Man plus the Hulk is Venom.
Yep. Basically.
Mindless.
With a little bit of the Joker tossed in.
That's right. Yeah.
And I guess
Carnage would be more the Joker. Venom isn't too maniacal.
I'm just thinking about visually.
But
that big mouth.
those all those spider villains are all derivative of Spider-Man. That's the whole point of it.
Yeah, it's all driven. Well, and it's okay. So I guess we started. This is Super Pulp Science, where we're talking about how genre gets made.
We're talking about how much genre
conversation.
You know, this is interesting actually, given that last week or whatever week that was, we were talking about how all the comic book companies stole from each other when they were making characters. So
and they do.
But
it's part of like recombining the tropes in a way that the existing audience says, "Oh, I see what you did there. I like those parts." So on the World War Weird graphic novel and role-playing game that I'm working on right now, it's all about remixing versions of characters you've already seen. But some of it is because those characters, there's 5 or 10 analogs of them that exist in the public domain. Like there was a lot of publishing competition, and the comic characters that are the most famous now are the ones that survived that pulp publishing cull.
Oh, okay.
So there were a lot of, and I'd have to go into my notes, but there were like 15 Superman analogs that were on the racks at the time. His was the most, you could argue that the character Superman was the most stating up front the premise of the character. He's a Superman. He didn't have like a weird name, or like, what was one I saw? Sparkman, for example, is a Superman analog from, you can look it up, just type in, dear listener, Sparkman, public domain. You'll find some very strange art related to that guy. But there's lots of Superman analogs from the same period in comics.
So it's like, you see this is hit, let's make our own version of this.
Right.
Same thing with Coke. It's like when Coca-Cola came out, there was a bunch of versions of different types of colas.
Right. But there's some strong evidence to suggest that Superman is following that trend. He's an analog of a bunch of other characters.
Is he?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So, there's nothing new under the sun.
Everything is a remix of something.
Yeah, it's a remix of something
have you
else.
guys ever seen that Kirby, I don't remember his last name, but he does a TED Talk on Everything's a Remix. And he talks about how, it starts with Bob Dylan, and how Bob Dylan is ripping off other people's songs and basically kind of repurposing old folk songs and folk tunes. But he gives all these different examples. I'll link to it. I can't remember the name of the guy.
And you don't always know deep down why you're doing a thing. Like I was, dear listener, just before the podcast started, I was doodling in my notebook here, as I am wont to do. And Dan looks over and he says, "Oh, that looks like the mutants from The Dark Knight Returns, the original Frank Miller." And he's 100% right, but that's not, did not have that in my mind.
Right.
I was making like a superhero analog, kind of weird glasses guy. But if you are familiar with The Dark Knight Returns and the mutants and how those like punk rock dudes dressed, I basically didn't even realize.
But is that going to change the way you look at that now?
Totally.
Okay.
Now I have to
Sorry.
I have to pivot away.
Damn it! It looks good. It's a good drawing, and I don't think a lot of people would have that thought when they saw it, right? Not everybody. We were talking also about how. But I think this is a good topic, actually.
Yeah. Okay. Hold on. I want to make a point.
Okay. Go ahead.
Intent matters.
Okay.
So when you're saying like, oh, well, now that you know, will it change it? Well, now that I know that is probably where deep down the idea was in my psyche, it does make me change or pivot. If I had continued,
were you going to add some mohawks and more punk elements to
whatever else would have happened if I hadn't been reminded of that? Might have all been me, but now I won't be able to shake the bits that are that derivative nature. So I'll have to pivot away from this in order to like have my own joy in making it. And I think that intent matters when you're making stuff. If someone said, when you're finished a piece, if someone says, oh, that reminds me of this, and you did not have that in mind at all, it might in fact be true, or it might even be close to some other thing. But if that's not where you started and that's not why you did it, some works of art are the answer to certain questions, right? So if you're trying to design, for example, a giant fighting robot, eventually there's going to be, and there's supposed to be a human pilot in it. There are only so many places to put that human pilot and so many ways for them to interface with that human pilot. And so you may you may come up with what you think is the most original mech design ever. And someone will look at that and say, oh, that reminds me of X anime from Japan.
Well, I was going to say Robot Jocks.
Right, Robot Jocks or whatever it is. Right?
Del Toro had the mandate. He wanted to make, the Jaeger designs not look like Gundams and not look like Voltron and not look like... And they did a pretty good job, but it's hard not to lump like it's...
And make the interface something we've never seen before.
That was interesting as well. Yeah, I think I was just watching a video about this yesterday about Pacific Rim and about how all those Jaegers are designed differently. All the ones are like very different. The one from Russia, the one from China, I think is the other one. And there's a bunch of different nationalities. Yeah. I love the one from Russia with this giant nuclear reactor on his head, like this crazy looking thing. But yeah, going back to kind of what we were discussing at the beginning here, you're talking about the movie Brightburn, which is another analog of Superman.
Right.
And I was talking about The Boys, which is on Amazon right now, Amazon Prime.
Work,
What's that? And that's another analog of Superman, but that's more deliberate. So I think the intention there is to say, what if Superman was like this? I don't want to give anything away.
I think everybody's getting a little worn out with the classic feel-good superhero movies, and we're all ready for a bit of change of pace.
Well, what's funny about that is that the 80s, the pivot away from clear-cut heroes that happened in 80s comics to a more gritty, more like influenced by the world stage is now happening in the movie universes.
Yeah, you just get exhausted with the same thing over and over again, and you change the tune.
So these comic books, like The Boys, when did that start being published?
So I was running my own comic store then.
Really?
So
I don't know that.
Yeah, that's that'll be early 2000s somewhere. Okay. But they invented the internet for this.
Oh, jeez. Okay, fine. Fine, I'll Google it. It was, by the way, Kirby Ferguson is the name of the guy. Google that. Everything's a remix. Check that out on YouTube. It's a very good TED Talk. And he just has a good premise for, you're not stealing, you're taking something, you're remixing it, making it something new. That's what a remix is. Mm-hmm. So go ahead, I'll Google The Boys.
And if you're thinking about, but what about copyright law? Let's say you're a really litigious person. Think of it like this. If someone can say, that reminds me of Superman, but when they look at the specific references, they're all different, you're fine. You can have a giant guy in a cape who shoots lightning or rays out of his eyes. Doesn't matter. He can even have a big letter on his chest. But as long as he didn't come from Krypton, he's not the last son of Krypton. He wasn't raised by the Kents, right? It's your own version. You can make your own Batman. You can make your own Superman. You can make all these things. But the problem with derivative works is that it points people back to the source.
Okay. Which isn't always a bad thing.
No, it's not a bad thing. But what I'm saying is, if you're hoping to make your mark, making a derivative work is probably not the best move. But if you've already made a mark, or you're doing lots of different work, playing around with derivatives can be fun. Garth Ennis, Preacher is one of the most original comics probably in the last 100 years.
As in ever.
Right.
Because comics have been around for not much more than 100 years.
So you can say Garth Ennis already did his original work. So if he wants to make a derivative work in The Boys of like, oh, what if everyone was tired of superheroes and it turned out superheroes behave just like rock stars do behind closed doors? They're dicks.
Mm-hmm.
He's
right?
good at making you go, like, making a scrunched up face and going, oh, God.
Yeah.
As that happens to that person.
Exactly. So this is just the Wikipedia on The Boys. Ennis has said that The Boys would out Preacher, presumably referring to the extreme violence and sexuality that were that series' hallmark, which is, it's pretty accurate.
Yeah.
It started in October of 2006.
2006.
But
So-
Preacher the show or
Preacher the comic book?
Because Preacher the comic, I think, was a lot more terrible than
Oh
what they
yeah,
did in
no,
the show.
I
They
was
couldn't do that on TV.
there was a character.
Star. All the things that happened to Star, I don't think they can do on TV. Although now I haven't caught up with the most recent season. There's too much to watch.
There is.
Have faith and never give up hope.
We were talking on another episode about with Nicholas Burns about how much entertainment there is now. Do you guys ever get the fatigue of how can I possibly watch all of this? It almost feels like a job to consume this much pop culture media. Where do you draw the line and how do you make that distinction?
I do feel that way, and I also feel like almost anxiety when it comes to choosing something new to watch. Because like I finished The Boys the other day, and now I'm like, okay, now what? And there's a million things to choose from as far as different series. But also at the same time, I want to rewatch The Expanse because that new season is coming out in a couple months. So I'm like, oh, I want to watch that. I want to watch. I want to rewatch It because the sequel to It is coming out soon. So I could not decide last night. I'm sitting there like looking. Literally, I've got the Netflix scroll thing happening where you just can't decide.
Is there? Go ahead.
Do you guys also feel like I don't have normal TV? I haven't had it since I don't think I've ever in my entire life had normal TV.
Yeah, me neither. Actually,
I do.
I have Netflix and Amazon Prime, and that.
But we both
me...
grew up out of regular TV. We didn't have. I didn't have cable growing up. I couldn't have cable.
So anytime
growing up.
we stay at a hotel and we throw on the TV and there's actual commercials, it hurts my brain that I have to put up with this. But I just have Netflix and Amazon Prime, and I find it's such an expanse, like a gap between the quality. Like when I usually, if I'm interested in something but I'm really not sure, I'll look it up, and it's either like a 2 out of 10 or like a 9 out of 10. There doesn't seem to be much in between. It's all garbage or amazing.
Where's the mid ground? Isn't that in
Is it just me, or does Netflix and Prime seem to have there's not a whole lot of middle ground?
You mean in their own star ratings or in the
just in their own original content? I think you're talking about.
No, all their content.
Okay, I don't know. I never thought about it in those terms. I just know that there's a lot.
Thanks for that.
There's a lot to choose from, and they're almost like these studios are stumbling over each other to put out this new content. So you sign up for their subscription service. I also have Crave TV, which is and the only reason I have it is because it also includes HBO, which is HBO is releasing the Watchmen series soon. I know you have mixed feelings about that. Oh man, this is all coming together. And I ran into James Gillespie today at the college getting coffee. And I said, how excited are you for The Dark Crystal? And he's like, very excited. And that's something, again, that's a reboot of a series or reimagining of a film.
Yeah, it's pure hypocrisy, dear listener, that I am upset that they're remaking The Watchmen, but I'm thrilled that they're remaking The Dark Crystal.
Tell us about why is that, though? Why are you feeling that way?
I feel like, and now this is just my feeling, but my sense of what I know about the Jim Henson Company is that the people employed by the Jim Henson Company and the thrust of the company in general is more focused on making something that's new and artistic in general.
Okay.
Now, in general, and I know that's a sweeping generalization, whereas HBO lately has just been doubling down on boobs and blood. And I just feel like that's maybe the wrong...
Well, it shouldn't all be boobs and blood.
Yeah.
There should be other elements as well. I have to say about
I'm not a Puritan. I'm just saying that what excites me about The Dark Crystal is that I can watch boobs and blood everywhere now. Every streaming service has some ultra-violent content that I can watch. It used to be a novelty that you got that on HBO. Yeah. Now everyone's got it. The novelty now is that somebody is going to make an exciting all-ages adventure story on a big budget. What?
I think part of the reason that I'm excited for The Dark Crystal is because the original film was not very successful.
Under the radar.
Yeah. It was not, and it was one of Jim Henson's, like, just his, just I don't know the term, I can't think of it, just a love that he wanted to get made, this idea of this whole thing being puppets and everything. He was just like, and I was watching a series on Jim Henson recently about how he was doing that, and he was also trying to do, I think it was Fraggle Rock was in production at that time, and so he was handing that off to other people. He wasn't as involved in Fraggle Rock as he was in The Muppet Show, but the idea of like them taking that and making it a more epic series, which I've always thought could be, like, this world is so rich that I would love to see more of that world.
And what I've always loved about The Dark Crystal as a world building is that so much of the film, there's probably 20% of that film that's just a tracking shot across the landscape, and everything in the landscape is an invented flora or fauna that's interacting in an imaginary ecosystem, and you watch it all unfold, like the bug get eaten by the weird creature, and then the weird creature get eaten by the plant, and then the plant,
it's all puppets.
And it's all puppets, and the entire landscape is a giant puppet machine, and then the puppet characters are moving through that landscape, and the entire, like, the level of creativity and artistry and craft that goes into it is different than CGIing laser beams to melt a woman's head, right? Which is like what we get on the other side of the spectrum now. If that level of craft, like the bar that they set in the original, which did fall under the radar, people didn't get it then, but it's become a cult classic now.
Oh, for sure, yeah, everyone loves it.
If they put that same level of effort into it.
And they did?
Well, I don't know.
I don't know much about the making of this series, so I don't know. I assume they're going to keep, like, the main characters puppets, but there's got to be some CGI elements to it.
And here's a game that is often played. They're going to show you everything that meets your expectations in the previews. So the previews I saw make me very excited because it looks like the stuff that I loved as a kid.
Yeah.
But they also made previews that look like there's a fair amount of CGI. It's like whoever it is they were marketing it to, whichever generation, there's a trailer for whoever they're pointing it at.
Because the younger kids won't care about the CGI because they didn't grow up with the original.
Yeah, they won't care that it's puppets. They want sweeping expanses,
right.
And there's a trailer that seems to be all about this, imaginary CGI world that they fly around in one of the scenes, and in the other one it looks very grounded and physical and all. So I can, so I don't know. Maybe it's awful. Maybe I'll hate it as much as I think I'll hate The Watchmen.
Maybe you'll like The Watchmen.
And maybe I'll like The Watchmen as much as I hope to like.
What?
But at the same time, it comes back around to what we're saying. Is this just our job now? Are we paying to show up for 8 hours or 10 hours or 40 hours a week to watch other people's content? And does that have a net negative gain to us as people?
I don't think so. Although Nick was talking about spending our lives, in our basements watching this stuff and how that's not a good thing. And we are kind of doing that.
Like instead of engaging in the political process, do we watch shows that are politically motivated or politically charged instead?
Right. Yeah, probably.
Like we would rather watch, as a society, I think we'd rather watch a comedian do a faux news show about politics than engage in politics at all.
I do both. What can't you do both?
Well, you can, but
okay.
You're a rarity.
I don't know.
That's why we like you, Dan. Right? You're a high-functioning nerd.
Our galaxy is split into two warring factions, our own and the one ruled by the evil Count.
So when it comes to new ideas for you guys, when you're thinking of, you've got your sketchbook here and this character, you just draw it out and see where it goes and don't worry about where it came from?
I actively acknowledge and think about how I'm harvesting good ideas from other creators.
Okay.
So usually when I'm starting out a piece, I'll come up with a bit of a thumbnail, but then I'll go kind of, wandering through the internet and like, oh my God, the background on this is great. The color scheme is great on this. Like, I love how they did the pose on this one. And I'll grab like little bits from all over the place. And like, I'm, a collage artist when it starts out. And then eventually what I kind of grab from other people and what ends up being the final product is very different. But the source is always like me finding what other people are doing great and trying to duplicate it.
Have you ever like put that out there? Like put your kind of inspiration for that stuff out there as far as...
Not really, no.
It'd be interesting to see that.
Yeah, and I wonder...
Like the mood board is what we call it.
Yeah. You know, and everyone we know who works as a professional illustrator, even non-professionals who are just like getting into it, they all have those hidden layers in Photoshop. They all have the stuff that gave them the push. And I think people tend not to share it because they fear that the uninitiated audience will assume you're just copying rather than standing on the shoulders of those giants.
Everybody wants you to be a Puritan and like go from scratch and work in a vacuum.
Yeah. You know, and it's funny because people will say, you know, if I'm at a show and someone's like, "Oh, can you sketch me that character?" And I'll do a rough sketch of that character.
A Spider-Man?
You know, of whoever.
Okay.
Right? Of, you know, let's say it's something out of a book I've done or whatever.
That's what I'm saying. Is it your character you created or is it a character that...
It can be either. Okay. But, you know, sometimes the question comes up, it's like, how come this version and this version in the book don't look exactly the same? Don't you draw it all the time that way? And I'll have to say, well, I use computer... Make one art, please, right, is what they think when you say, as soon as you say computer. But it's like, because I am able to use Photoshop to say, oh, that chin is not exactly the same as I did it last time, adjust. Right?
Okay.
The Control-Z element of art when you're working digitally means that if I'm asked to draw something perfectly the same in two instances with my hand, there's probably a 20% difference every time. But on the computer, I can change that 20% difference in 10 seconds.
Or even just using a light table and tracing over your own drawings over and over and over again.
You know, sorry guys, dear listener, if you think that all comics are made from scratch like that, they are not.
They were at one time, right? Were they at one time?
No.
Like, for example, Archie, they have, like, portfolios with, like, thousands and thousands of pages of every single pose and... element of Archie broken down into sizes and angles and stuff. Nobody's drawing Archie from scratch.
They're all working. Okay, so
they're all working from
they're talking about character models. You have to stay on sheet.
Okay.
Right? And Marvel for a while in the house style had sheets, and so did DC, that you had to match the models that they provided. A little different as the style goes on, but what we're talking about is the fact that, you know, if you look at Akira, say, Otomo's like masterwork. What you can guarantee is he had assistants working on those backgrounds.
Oh, okay, I get it. Yeah,
right.
Because that takes a long time. That's the grind work, right?
Right. If you look at any of the comics built in the analog system, so many of those backgrounds, so many of the fills, someone would bring on assistants. They would be completely uncredited, and someone actually showed me a list of people who should have been credited on what comics. One time, I should dig that up. Just to shatter all of your dreams that everything is always perfect and connected. But the point I'm making is that sometimes you would bring on an assistant who was really good at drawing trees. Hey, Dan, I hate drawing trees. You're fast at drawing trees. You draw all the trees in this comic for me, and I'll draw all the cars in your book. And they would swap constantly.
That's fair. I hate drawing cars.
Right? But then you wouldn't credit that person.
No, that's true.
Because then you can't be paid. They have to split that pay.
Okay.
With your assistant. So there was I was at UCLA and I did this talk on making comics and did all this stuff, and Howard Chaykin was one of the guests there too. And he's a inflammatory figure in comics. I'll just leave it there. But when we were talking process together, he was so transparent about his use of assistants that it was shocking. Like, the crowd was shocked when he was like, oh, on that work, my assistant did this, and I had someone else assemble this in 3D program, and then this, and then this, and then this, and then I assembled it all and did the draw over, and that's why my name is the biggest. Mm-hmm. Right? And a lot of people who don't understand commercial illustration, you could tell they were angry and hurt by the idea that the presentation of everything as being under this one name is how it is. But any movie you ever saw where someone wrote, directed, and starred in it, no.
Well, not only that, but in a movie, like there's set design, there's people wardrobe, there are people all doing different parts of that job, but they all get credit.
What's his name from The Office? We've talked about
Jim. John Krasinski.
Yeah, what's the movie where everyone had to be quiet?
Oh, The Quiet Place.
Quiet Place. It was a place where they went and they had to be quiet.
Except by the waterfall. Why didn't they just live by the waterfall?
So if you watch only the promos of that film, everything is like written, directed, starring.
Yes, John Krasinski, yeah.
John, however,
sets too, and the monster designs.
Well, and Jim. If you listen to his, he did this great interview on the DGA podcast, Directors Guild of America, where he explains how he bought a script and then did a final rewrite of that script, and that's why his name.
Right, because the last person who does rewrites on the script gets it.
All the
Doesn't
credit.
Matter how many people.
Right?
Came up
I
with
did
that
a bunch
script.
of scripts for a true crime television series. My name will never appear on any database.
But you got paid to do it, right?
Sure. But what I'm talking about is the public perception is, that person is responsible and is the genius behind that. When sometimes they're the one that stepped in front of all the hard work that everyone else did and gave credit. Now, the reason that is that way is the union rules of the Writers Guild.
Okay.
It's not that someone is trying to steal it. It's that is how
sure, there's
the
some
job
cases
works.
where
maybe there are some cases where some people abuse that right.
Because how impressive is it when it's directed, starred, and written by the same guy?
Of course. Yeah.
Yeah, but he's still being honest about I bought a script and telling.
Yeah,
he's not trying to pretend that
he is,
because Jim is like
nice
the heart of America.
But
and
how many people listened to that DGA podcast compared to how many people saw the promo of the film?
Yeah, no, I get that, and a writer-director is as an actor is it's a triple threat, right? So you can do all three. But I feel that when you watch movies and you look at the credits of a film, and you see like written by, and there's like 4 or 5 names there, like as far as people who've written a script together, I always for some reason think it's going to be a bad script.
That's people's perception,
right?
Also.
Like that's kind of so. I think that's part of the reason why they do that is because you want to have a clear kind of this was written by this person. That's a better thing to portray.
Clean.
Yeah, keep it clean, and it seems more focused. Although there could have been 10 writers on that before that. And by the way, things get better with rewriting. Things get better. So if somebody else takes a stab at a script, it can get better. There's nothing wrong with that. But you're talking about just getting the credit for the work is what you're talking about. But for me, I'm like, well, that person got paid to write that, so they got their.
So they don't deserve credit?
Well, they receive payment for their services.
So they don't deserve credit. If you've been paid, you don't need credit. Is that what you're saying? That's a dangerous premise.
I'm saying that if you went into it knowing that your name would not be on it in the end, and you got paid for it, then it's fine.
So you accept the terms of your conditions.
Do you still get to use it in your portfolio? Can you say that you did that work, even though when they look it up on IMDb, your name's nowhere to be seen?
So I had to sign those shows that I wrote episodes for, and I was doing first drafts. So I knew that it would be rewritten.
Yeah.
And the contract and the conversation I had with the producer was it would be rewritten. And when I said, well, will I get credit? They said, only if your draft is untouched,
which means
between
no,
here and screen,
never.
Which means no,
right.
But they didn't say that. They were still trying to obfuscate it because that's how the business works. Okay. Right? I knew better.
I don't like that idea. I don't like the idea of being dishonest about it. Like they should be upfront and tell you this is the way it works.
Well, they are being honest. If we don't change anything, your name will stay as the.
And did you just say what are the chances of that happening?
No, I knew the chances.
Okay, well,
right, and that was a particularly interesting project. It was a kind of a thrilling thing to be asked at the last second to write a bunch of stuff in the pinch.
And now you have the experience of writing that, so you can do it again and learn from your mistakes and be better at it next time.
Yeah, absolutely.
So there's that.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean,
I did it for the experience of doing it.
Yeah.
But a lot of people who write those first draft scripts, or when they sell the script, they have to sign away the ability to claim ownership of it.
Yeah.
So like it's just come out recently that the English script adaptation of Princess Mononoke was in fact Neil Gaiman.
I didn't know that.
Of course you didn't know that.
He was an uncredited writer
because
at the time.
Neil Gaiman was uncredited.
But he was okay with that.
No, he wasn't.
He was not?
No, he's come out publicly to say how it's irked him for decades.
Okay.
Right? But you don't shit where you eat either.
Okay, yeah, of course.
Right? So you
when was that in his career that he did that?
He would have been famous from comics.
Yeah, he would have.
For sure.
So he'd have done Sandman and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
So this is what I'm saying. Yes, he got paid, but there were 3, and like the story that broke sort of this week about it was there were 3 executive producers whose names went into the credits instead of the actual writer's name.
We've got to get past those golems.
Yes, but how?
It's funny, especially with those animated anime movies that originate in Japan and are written in Japanese and having the English. I don't think a lot of people care about who writes the English versions of that. You know what I mean? Like,
but Princess Mononoke is particularly is an exceptional adaptation.
Yeah.
And for the dear listeners wondering how do you adapt a film script, why don't you just follow it? Is because the subtleties of one language don't translate necessarily to the other.
There's so many bad translations.
And it's not, and you could do a direct translation, but it has to match the dub, has to match the number of times the lips are moving.
I can't believe the cast of the voice cast of the English version. Yeah. Billy Bob Thornton, Minnie Driver, Claire Danes, Billy Crudup, Dr. Manhattan himself is in this one. Excellent.
Yeah, it's a great.
Keith David, oh my God.
If you have not,
he's so good though. Keith David's got an amazing voice. Gillian Anderson.
Gillian Anderson's amazing. And Studio Ghibli's masterwork, I think, is Princess Mononoke.
Yeah, it's very good. But again, when I watched it, I didn't know any of this. Didn't know whose voices it was. It was like 1990. What is it? 97 ish. Yeah, 97. So I mean, I was working at a Blockbuster Video at the time, and it came out, and I rented
isn't it a little bit frustrating? Okay, I won't say is it as if it's a question to you. I'll simply state my position. I find it frustrating that Gillian Anderson, who just read a script in her voice, is credited, but not the person who wrote the words that she is saying.
Okay.
That seems to me a troublesome precedent to be set.
But we also keep referring to it's a movie by Studio Ghibli.
Yeah.
When really there's hundreds of names.
Also true.
Right?
Yeah, so true.
So
and who wrote the original script? Can I name them? No. So I'm a hypocrite again. That's 2 hypocrite points in this podcast. So we're just a bunch of we're now just a bunch of pop culture. This is why we don't sit around critiquing other people's works on this show, because you fall down this rabbit hole of immediately throwing shade.
They kind of do it where the movie starts and it goes a film by Marvel, and that's all it says.
Yeah.
And then at the very end, they list the thousands of names, and they still distill it a little bit. But
yeah.
I'm looking up A Quiet Place to see if it won the Oscars, because here's where it gets sticky. So John Krasinski is credited with the screenplay. 3 people actually. John Krasinski, Scott Beck, and Brian Woods are credited with the screenplay for A Quiet Place, ironically, because there's very little dialogue in this movie. Right. But of course, it also includes all the other direction and everything. And it was nominated for a bunch of awards. It didn't win anything. It looks like it only won 1 award for the AFI Awards Movie of the Year. And all the other awards, nominated for a Saturn, nominated for a Bram Stoker Award. I didn't even know that was a thing.
Oh yeah, it's a thing.
But what about now? If you was
almost nominated for a Stoker.
You were?
Yeah, close, very close. Cool. I was told, very close.
One day. But here's the thing. So the person who originally came up with this idea, like the script he bought, already had the idea of it being quiet. Mm-hmm. This is going to bring us all around back to derivative things in a second. I'll get there. So that person who came up with the original idea does not get credit for this.
He's in a coffee shop right now telling all the other screenwriters on their laptops, like, hey, I created Quiet Place.
I wrote A Quiet Place. Remember that movie everyone loved?
Shut up, Dave.
But here's the thing, and we had this conversation at FanQuest when I bought your Day of the Triffids poster.
Which is the derivative work.
Which is
hypocrite point number 3.
That was a...
my work is
No, but I see it as a tribute. Like, that's a tribute to Day of the Triffids. Right. It was a movie poster for... let's be honest, the movie wasn't great. But...
every tribute is derivative work.
Yeah, but A Quiet Place is derivative of Day of the Triffids.
Absolutely.
And so is the what's the one, the blindfolded one?
Oh, that was terrible.
No, but what was it called with Sandra Bullock?
Bird Box.
Bird Box.
Bird Box.
Both in the Day of the Triffids, plants come to life and you can't see because there's been a meteor storm and everyone's gone blind. Most of the world has gone blind. And you can't make any noise because these plants respond to sound. Yeah. So those 2 ideas are in Day of the Triffids.
Yeah.
years, decades and decades before these hit movies came out. So it's all a remix. Everything's a remix.
Yeah. And it doesn't take anything away. Like a remix doesn't take anything away.
No, not at all. Sometimes it makes it better.
The accomplishment of the other thing, but it does call into question these positions that some creators have of their unassailable genius.
Yeah.
And I think that's why it's so precarious for many of them, why they are and we've all seen and heard the stories of people who have the freakouts at shows because somebody asks them a question like, hey, isn't that just Battlestar Galactica? Didn't I see that episode somewhere? And they'll freak out because, no, I'm a genius. No, I'm so original. No, I'm so great. I feel like, that is them not facing their own demons and just being like, yeah, I get my ideas from the world that I live in.
And by the way, many, many people, we've had this conversation before about the...
So this is a derivative work from a previous episode.
It is. It is. But it was the film that we watched with the Mother. Was it Mother with the robot mother raising the
Great
babies?
film.
Yeah. It was very good. And again, but there was very similar imagery. I thought there was some similar imagery to Red Earth.
Totally.
As far as like the babies being grown in a test tube kind of a thing.
And I was initially like, I am watching this film, and I'm like, we just wrote this play. And here it is.
Exactly the same.
Right.
But
And then
there
as
are
soon
elements.
as it pivots away, it's like, but you see what you're looking for.
Yes.
So if you have just seen Red Earth, you only see the things that line up in there. But if you had never seen it, you wouldn't see the comparison. Like if you saw, like someone who saw Mother today, who had seen Red Earth months ago, probably would not make those same immediate comparisons, right? You would see whatever you're into. But Mother is actually just a remix of the Garden of Eden story. It's a derivative work from the Bible.
From the Bible, there you go, which is the original story, right?
Right.
Also, dear listener, do yourself a favor.
The Bible is a derivative work. Don't get me started on this.
Take a second and search time lapse of the Mother costume suit up.
Oh, it's so
There's a guy in that suit.
No, I know. It looks so good.
The costume is amazing.
We saw the prop. It was in, maybe you didn't go see it. It was in San Diego. I'm pretty sure that's where, it was there. The Weta workshop booth was there, and they had the original props and a bunch of the stages of completion all in this like installation you can see.
It's a great example of how practical effects are much better than CGI in many cases, because that was a practical effect, that robot. But in some shots where you see more robots, larger, you could tell that it was a CGI, right? And it was fairly obvious.
Yeah.
When you see them two side by side, it's fairly obvious it was
Brings
CGI.
us back to the Jim Henson workshop.
Yeah, there
practical
you go.
effects are more magical.
There you go.
Even though you know they're fake.
What was the name of the Netflix movie that that Lyndon was upset about because it was very similar to his comic? Titan, was that it? Where they super
The premise is similar, but not the delivery. And it's the singer, not the song, right?
Yeah.
Like, okay, well, let's I'm going to challenge you to tell me a new origin story for Superman. Where can Superman land that makes him a different person?
We've talked about this. He lands in Gotham City.
Yeah, no, not one that's already happened. Let's immediately make a derivative work.
The Wild West.
The Wild West Superman.
Oh, that'd be so cool.
Right?
Way back in the day.
Yeah. So that would... And your mind is immediately filling in all the gaps of the tropes of the Wild West.
What about Spider-Man before tall buildings? That'd be boring.
Well, they made that joke in Homecoming, right?
Yeah.
He's like trying to cross a golf course. He's like, this sucks. He's got to run across the golf course.
Yeah, just sprinting. So, okay, so what if Spider-Man was raised by the Kents?
Yeah.
Right? What if it's what if it's aliens from a spider world that their spider ship lands on the farm and he grows up with spider powers?
I think the point we need to make is if
and the S
somebody
just
comes
stands
in
for spider.
Dan comes in with this spider alien script and hands me one and hands you one, and we go to work for the next 5 to 8 months.
Yes.
And we end up with 2 books. Nobody's going to confuse those books.
Yeah,
because they're going to be
We've said this before,
completely
yes.
different.
Yes.
And the book that I'm doing for a company I'm still not allowed to name, I actually checked last week if I'm allowed to talk about the development, but my NDA currently prohibits me from discussing where Arena City is placed. But Arena City, I can talk about the book itself, is a derivative work. It's everything I love about 80s action movies. It's everything I love about the wushu, like the high-flying kung fu films.
Oh, yeah.
And everything that I love about cyberpunk dystopias all rolled into one story. It's just every bit of that imagery that I have ever wanted to illustrate, I'm putting into that story and then trying to figure out the story that makes that possible.
That's excellent. I think it's a great way to go at it.
But it's derivative.
Well, who cares? Who cares? It's a good story. And I think all of these things we've talked about are good stories. And even when I'm thinking about the idea of Superman in the Wild West, I'm like, that is a great idea for a story. That, you know, and if the point of it is, as
Batman
I hope,
in the Wild West would be better.
It would be better, yes.
Yeah.
There's a Ninja Batman. Have you seen that? It's on Netflix.
Yes.
It's like an anime looking thing.
I haven't seen it.
Yeah, it's on Netflix. It's good. But if the goal is to tell a good story, then it's okay to be derivative. It's okay to borrow from other things to make something new, as long as you're not directly copying it, right?
Yes.
Or as long as your intent is not to confuse people into thinking that it's something else. Like we talked about the Steam Trek,
Like Atlantic
Yeah.
Rim, right? Like
yeah, well,
Pacific Rim comes out.
yeah, that's someone trying to take advantage of a popular, or the Transmorphers,
Yes.
which is like, you know,
And it's a degree, not a category. Like I'm looking across the studio here at this big Papa Bear canvas that I did. It's a giant bear man holding a blunderbuss with a red vampire skull
Oh, it's a
on
vampire
his,
skull, yeah.
Right? And the idea is like everyone recognizes and it's just a big bear man with a gun until I put the words Papa Bear on it. And now every time you ever heard the story of Goldilocks and the Three Bears comes to mind. And then you transpose that across this and ask yourself, like, what the heck happened to this Papa Bear? Which is the point. But it's a derivative word,
that's okay.
right?
Sounds like a dirty word.
Derivative.
Yeah, when
You're
when
so
most people bring that up,
derivative.
aren't they trying to, like, it's a knock against
negative,
what,
yes.
It's like
absolutely.
the way we use ignorance now, right? Ignorance just means not knowing, but we use it as if, like, you should have known better.
Yeah, no, people can be ignorant and through no fault of their own, right?
Yeah.
They can be ignorant because they were not taught.
And so you can
something.
make derivative works out of ignorance, and you're not trying to rip off some other thing. Like this sketch I was doing here. This is a derivative work out of ignorance of my own backstory.
The Count has created a weapon so vast, so huge, that it would take a whole planet to conceal it.
I did a series about a year ago called 3029 where it was
Oh yeah, and then
robots
everyone
in
else.
suits,
Yeah.
and everybody's like, "Oh, this is just like that short-run comic book series."
Dog Complex or something? What was it called?
Oh,
But anyway, everyone online was like, "Oh, are you ripping off this guy's idea?" And Justin had just been working away in the studio on his own little thing.
No idea, right?
It was
No
a
idea.
very
Yeah.
it wasn't a big run. It was a very
Yeah.
short little graphic novel that only had like one issue
Yeah.
kind of thing, but like it was spot on, like the same kind of concept.
This is not a problem that's isolated to comics either or films. There was recently the story about I believe it was Katy Perry, and someone sued her because her song sounded like their song, and they apparently won, which is not great.
There's a algorithm. I watched a documentary about this, so I'm speaking again out of ignorance, not out of.
Well, you watch a documentary,
right?
which is more than I've seen.
That there's an actual note for note like percentage where if your song matches a certain number of
They
notes,
have a formula.
They have
like-
a formula because it comes up so often.
Yeah, because again, people just kind of take the same. They all have a similar training in music. They learn the same way at the beginning, and you come up with similar riffs and similar.
And not only that, but the human emotional spectrum responds to certain sound cues.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if you're trying to elicit this is what I'm saying. Certain works of art are the answer to a question. It's just like an equation, right? Brightburn is a good example of that. We were talking about the horror movie equation. People who watch horror movies, a lot of people who are into horror movies want the kill. So the equation is, if we want people to respond the way they do to other horror movies, we're going to do a close-up on this piece of glass in this woman's eye while she tries to pull it out. Sorry that you had to imagine that. Right? Look at your face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's horrible. And the tugging of that glass on her
is this
eye
in the
and the
movie?
surface tension of her eye jiggling as she's trying to get the glass out, right? I'm describing it to you now, and it's horrible. But
That scene's also pretty much in the trailer, so it wasn't a spoiler.
right, yeah. But the reason I bring this up is that if you're trying to create the emotional response of a horror movie, there are some things that people do all the time. Eye wounds are in a lot of horror movies.
Did you also notice
horrible.
There's a kill in Brightburn that is almost
identical
to a kill in The Boys?
The Boys?
I did finish The Boys.
Okay,
yes.
So you've seen the end of Brightburn.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Sort of.
But it's exactly like I'm sure they had nothing to do with each other.
Yeah.
These studios never connected. Nobody ever talked. But it was just like, what are some cool ways? If Superman was going to kill some people, how would he do it in some interesting ways?
Visuals?
Well, okay, so
all three of us would come up with the same ideas independent, and they'd match, you know?
But the thing is, and it's all coming from the idea of Superman's powers, which include...
Okay, yeah,
well, let's talk about his powers to fly, super strength, invulnerability. He's got the speed, the ice breath. Is that ice breath or just strong breath?
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And laser eyes,
yes.
like the laser eyes.
Yeah.
So all these things are kind of come up with in the 30s or whenever they made Superman, and or did they add to it? Maybe I felt like they added to it.
His powers were added to.
I feel like
first he couldn't even fly.
Yeah,
he
could just
jumped.
leap.
Yeah.
So it's like they thought of this, and so what does he use his like laser eyes for in the comic book originally?
Just to get people free from things.
Yeah, usually he's cutting girders.
Yeah, right. So you never think about him like actually shooting a person with it.
He never shoots people.
Yeah.
No.
Unless they're invulnerable, and so that it can make sparks off them. When
well,
he's
but somehow he knows only to shoot invulnerable people.
Yeah. Well, he has X-ray vision, so I guess he can tell they can take it.
X-ray vision. That's the other one that he has. So all these kind of ideas of these powers that Superman has, these properties, the Boys and Brightburn are kind of taking this and twisting it. Like, what would he do if he was not a great person, kind of thing.
Like, Brightburn is basically the idea of if the child was a sociopath.
Yeah,
but he had Superman's powers.
No consequences, literally. Like, you're Superman, there are no consequences.
But we talked about this off air before, and you guys said this film has nothing to do with Warner Brothers.
Nope.
Nothing to do with any of the studios that own Superman, the rights to Superman. So wouldn't you be upset if you were, now I know we were talking about derivative works being okay, but if you were the studio, wouldn't you be upset about this film being out there?
No,
so there is this other argument that derivative works point back to the source.
Right, okay, yeah.
So as long as it is not going to be confused with the original work, you have a copyright claim. For example, Mark Millar did this. So Mark Millar did a comic book called Nemesis. And when he originally marketed it, he marketed it in the following way. What if Batman was the Joker?
Oh, okay.
It was an Image comic called Nemesis with a guy in a Batman suit, except there was no ears and it was white.
Okay.
So, but it was exactly Batman's suit.
Okay.
Right? And he had this big evil grin on it. And he had like smeared his face in blood or something. So he had like the red lips. And that was the original ads for it. He got a cease and desist immediately from DC. Like, do not compare your comic directly to our comics to market your comic.
You can't do that in the marketing materials. You can do it to pitch it to somebody.
But he had just done it online. But the way that comics media, he and Mark Millar understands comic media, it went everywhere.
Right.
And then the story of him being told, don't do this, went everywhere. And it was a derivative work. But DC also had a character named Nemesis.
Oh, okay.
And so it had to be retitled Mark Millar's Nemesis so that it wouldn't be confused or conflated with an existing comic book character, Nemesis. Now, why you can do that with a character like Nemesis is the name of a Greek god. It's a public domain word.
Right. Yes, exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Just like the word cat or dog. You can have a superhero named the cat or the dog or the squirrel or the whatever.
Oh, the squirrel. I want to see that comic book.
Squirrel Girl can be trademarked, but the squirrel...
She beat up Thanos one time.
Run time. So there's this whole idea of that it does point back, but you can't make the claim that it's like that in your marketing.
Yeah, that's fair. I think that's a fair thing to do, right?
Yeah, it's fair, but it's complicated.
It's all good. And again, just make good stories. Just create good stories. Who cares where they come from?
Who cares where they come from?
Yeah.
I think that's like once I became okay with that, like starting out, like coming from more of a like traditional fine arts background, I felt like I had the restrictor plates on, right? Like you can't take any ideas from anywhere else. Like it all has to be original. And if it's not 100% original, like don't do it. And so I feel like I probably, like it stunted my development because I tried actively to like just do my own thing,
Right,
and
whereas
not
some fine arts educations are about copying the old masters.
trying
right?
to
Like,
duplicate,
yeah,
right?
can you paint like Cézanne? Can you paint like Monet?
See
Can
how
you,
he did this?
yeah.
Like, let's learn to do that trick.
Yeah.
And other
Yeah.
people are like, no, that's cheating, that's tracing, that's
Tracing. You're nothing but a tracer.
Yeah,
you're just a tracer.
yeah, just a tracer. Tracing artwork. Yeah, wow.
I think we're good.
How did we? This was a good conversation.
Yeah, it was. This is
That
what this
started
podcast
as the
is all
preamble. Dear listener, what we normally do is we talk a little bit to get warmed up on the mics, just to make sure that the levels are okay, and then we start our episode. But the warm-up conversation became the whole conversation, and this has been Super Pulp Science, where we talked about how genre got made. I am encouraging you to write your own stories, derivative or otherwise, join the fight and make comments.